Hi, and welcome back to this Thursday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. Want to shift gears and talk a little bit about this rolling disaster that is Obamacare, and then we'll start taking your calls here toward the end of this hour. 888-589-8840 is the number to call, 888-589-8840. And before we jump into that, came across a study that indicates that nut eaters have lower cancer and heart disease risk. Now, I've loved nuts all of my life. My dad loved nuts. I think I got that from him. But here's a story that indicates that regular nut eaters less likely to die of cancer or heart disease. In fact, less likely to die of any cause during a 30-year Harvard study. So they've been studying people that eat nuts for 30 years. And if you eat nuts roughly every day, 20% less likely to die during the study period than those who never ate nuts. The risk of dying of heart disease dropped 29%. Risk of dying of cancer fell 11%. So that is your little health factoid of the day. One of my favorite things to do, and Debbie buys these for me in the fall when they are available, is I love to crack nuts while I'm watching NFL football, or college football for that matter. Big giant bowl with the almonds in them, in the shell, the filberts, the pecans, and the walnuts, and then I'll just kind of crack one while they're huddling, and then I'll eat it during the play. It's one of my favorite things to do as a person, as my daughter once said when she was young. I don't know if you saw this story while we're on the subject of health, which we're really not, but this was an interesting story to me from the Blaze. Here's a woman, and listen, I'll just read the story just to show you just how this mindless bureaucracy we have in America is out of control. Leftover pot roast, potatoes, carrots, and orange and milk. Does that sound like a healthy lunch to you? Pot roast, potatoes, carrots, and orange and milk to drink. You got your fruit, you got your carbohydrates, you got your protein, you got your vegetables, you got your milk. You got all your basic food groups represented here. Well, a mom sent that lunch with her daughter to school, and she got a $10 fine for that because it wasn't nutritious enough. Here's what the story says on the Blaze. According to a set of lunch regulations for children, the meal was not balanced enough since it was missing a grain. The caregiver's solution, listen to this, they filled the void. They said, okay, you got pot roast, you got potatoes, you got carrots, you got an orange for dessert, you've got milk, you got no grains in here. So you know what they put in the lunch? Ritz crackers. That was their grain. So they threw some Ritz crackers in the lunch, and they charged the mom $10 for these Ritz crackers they threw in her daughter's lunch because she was missing grain. So that's what's going on out there in the fruited plain. Now, let's grab clip number one, Rob. This is a clip from Fox News. And remember that President Obama has told us all along, man, I didn't know there were any problems with this website. I didn't find out till a week after the thing rolled out that we had problems. I didn't know. Nobody told me. I mean, he is the quintessential low information voter. He's the last to find out about anything. He's the last to find out about everything. According to him, he has to find out about everything, even what his own administration is doing, by watching the news, just like you and I have to do. No wonder he has no idea what's going on, because he's getting his news, his perspective on what he's doing. He's finding out about what he's doing. He's finding out about what his administration is doing from ABC and NBC and CBS. No wonder he doesn't have a clue about what he's doing and what his administration is doing. At any rate, so he's been saying, hey, I didn't know. Nobody told me. The complete news to me. Here's Fox News revealing something about what the White House knew a week before the rollout. Let's listen to Ed Henry.
Confidential documents obtained by Fox suggest that people inside the administration just 1 week before the website launch had fears that it may fail, more fears than they may have let on publicly. Top aides to President Obama were nervous healthcare.gov would be, quote, unavailable and become an embarrassment. A private email sent on September 25th by CMS official Henry Chow to government colleagues and the website's contractors was obtained by Republican Chairman Darrell Issa. It references a meeting the previous day that included Todd Park, the president's chief technology officer, and CMS chief Margaret Tavenner. Chow wrote, quote, when Todd Park and Marilyn were here yesterday, one of the things Todd conveyed was this fear the White House has about HC.gov being unavailable. Chow warned Park would be back for more answers on September 30th and wrote, quote, I think we should have a more comprehensive answer as to how we will ensure high availability on the site. While the emails show at least one top White House aide knew of the danger, President Obama suggested last week the problems were a surprise.
So that's President Obama, always the last to find out, the last to know. You look up low information voter in the dictionary, and there is a picture of President Obama. And you probably have seen by now what happened to Kathleen Sebelius yesterday. She was at North Shore Hospital in Miami. She's meeting with navigators. These are these Planned Parenthood types and these union types that are telling people to lie on their applications, telling them to cheat. James O'Keefe caught another batch of navigators admitting that they were willing to break the law to get this confidential information into the hands of political operatives. So all that's going on with these navigators. So Kathleen Sebelius down there to meet with them. And so she met a navigator who was assisting a couple who was enrolling in Obamacare. So is she being helpful, Sebelius asked the man who was trying to sign up for Obamacare. Very, the man responded. Seconds later, when Sebelius visited another table, things appeared to be awry. The screen says, I'm sorry, but the system is temporarily down. CBS 4's Brian Andrews told Sebelius. Sebelius, caught off guard and embarrassed, could only say, uh-oh, in response. Now, one of the things that's happening is that this thing is so bad, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but here's the important takeaway, is the Democrats now that are leading the Burn This Thing to the Ground caucus. It's the Democrats, Lanny Davis out there today saying we need to hit the reset button on this thing. You hit a reset button, it sets everything back to zero. You're starting over. Harold Ford Jr., who was a former Democrat elected official, says this thing is not working. We're going to have to start over with this deal. So realize it is the Democrats now that are leading the Burn This Thing to the Ground caucus. 888-589-8840. Let's grab clip number 2, Rob. Now, remember, this was Obamacare. Now, at first, the Democrats did not like the term Obamacare. It was the Affordable Care Act. They didn't like it, but then President Obama embraced it, said, man, I love it because I care. So all of a sudden it was Obamacare, Obamacare, Obamacare. Now that this thing is blowing up in everybody's face, all of a sudden it is the Affordable Care Act. And I want to play a little montage that the people at Washington Free Beacon pulled together where you're all of these leading Democrats referring to it in one way in the first half of this montage. Then it goes off the rails, and see how in the last 2 months they have changed the way they talk about this health care law. Let's listen.
I like the term Obamacare. We passed Obamacare. Yeah, I like the term. We passed it. Because I do care.
Obamacare is on my list. I apologize, Mr. President. I use that term with all respect, by the way. Good.
Lock in tight on Obamacare.
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 Obamacare. Until it's working really well, and then they're going to stop calling it Obamacare. They're going to call it something else.
They're losing their existing insurance plans under Obamacare.
Latest on Obamacare.
Obamacare fiasco.
Obamacare fiasco. Never-ending Obamacare fiasco.
Obamacare.
Implement and improve the Affordable Care Act. 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 Affordable Care Act.
The 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 Affordable Care Act, as I call it, as always called it.
You know, and one of the statements early in the montage was Nancy Pelosi calling it Obamacare. Now, all of a sudden, she's forgotten about that. I've always called it the Affordable Care Act. 888-589-8840. Go to the phones after this soundbite. Ron Fournier from the National Journal, hardcore card-carrying liberal. Remember, President Obama's approval rating down to 37%. Here's what Ron Fournier card-carrying liberal had to say about that.
It's a race to the bottom, and those aren't even the most important numbers. What held up President Bush during his most troubled times in his first and second term were that people, even if they didn't agree with him, they liked him and they trusted him. Same with President Obama. Yeah. He got through some tough times because people liked him and trusted him. As soon as a president loses that competency and credibility with the public, which Bush did in 2005, and President Obama is now, they're toast, especially in their second term. There is really no history of a president in their second term having come down this far ever coming back up.
And he's exactly right about that. Once a president's approval numbers get down to where Obama's are, historically they never, ever, not a single time, not once, not a single solitary time, have they ever bounced back. And the Democrats know that history. That's why they are running like scalded dogs. They're saying we got to burn the house down. We've got to start over. We got to hit the reset button. They're not putting the word Obama anywhere in that, trying to get as far away from him as they possibly can in order to save their own political necks in November. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Franklin, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Franklin, welcome. What's on your mind?
Well, hello there, Brian.
Hey.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you. What's up?
Well, you had a gentleman call yesterday from my hometown, Muskegon, Michigan.
Yes,
And he claimed that if everybody just paid $5 a year, they'd take care of the health insurance problem.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, he obviously didn't get out his calculator, because when I did, I found out that it would take $5,000 a year per person, every man, woman, and child in the United States. And then that suddenly clicked in, well, that's why the government wants a $5,000 deductible.
Ah, because they know that that's about what the cost is. So they're going to, what you're saying is they're sticking us with the cost of health care.
Exactly.
So they're going to tax us, they're going to collect our money, but we're still going to wind up paying for the cost of health care. All right, that's an interesting perspective, Franklin. And, you know, it touches with what we have seen is the sticker shock that people are finding, first of all, was premiums. Premiums going up 100 to 400%, but realize these plans aren't even going to be used until January. And then people are going to find out in January that their copays are going through the ceiling and that their deductibles are going through the ceiling. They might have had a $1,000 deductible now. It's going up to $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 for a family of four in January. That's serious sticker shock.